She left her child to care for a fake sick mother, and found proof of his secret family. Then now she exposed him publicly. Martha and Bill Carter's house in a quiet suburban neighborhood of Houston, Texas appeared ordinary from the outside, just like any other home. However, Martha had no idea that her daily life was about to fall apart. Martha worked as a nurse at the local general hospital. After her long shifts, she always felt warmed by the smile of her 7-year-old daughter, Amy, when she returned home. Martha's brown hair fell to her shoulders, and beneath her eyes were faint traces of fatigue from her constantly busy work. Nevertheless, she always maintained the best smile she could for her family. "Mom, look. I drew this picture at school today." Amy proudly held up a crayon drawing of her family as soon as her mother arrived home. "That's lovely, Amy." Martha took her daughter's artwork and carefully placed it on the wall next to other drawings. The picture showed 3 people, a father, a mother, and Amy herself in the middle. Martha felt a tightness in her chest. Bill had been gone from home for a month. Bill worked at an insurance company and had met Martha in college, winning her heart with his gentle nature and sincerity. Their marriage had seemed to be going well. After Amy was born, both Martha and Bill devoted themselves to balancing work and family, and they were known in the neighborhood as an ideal family. However, a month ago, news arrived that Bill's mother, Carol, had fallen ill. Carol had lost her husband several years earlier and lived alone in a house near Austin, Texas. That day, Bill told Martha with a serious expression, "My mother is sick and needs care. I'm going to stay at her house for a while." Martha was surprised but immediately showed understanding. "I see. That must be difficult. Let's go as a family and help out." Bill immediately refused that suggestion. "That won't work. Mother is vulnerable to stress from outsiders, especially now visits are difficult." The doctor said to maintain a quiet environment. His tone was stronger than usual, and he even seemed a bit flustered. "But Amy and I are family too, aren't we?" Martha said. And Bill's expression softened slightly. "Of course you are. But right now, I want to prioritize my mother. It's only planned for a short time, so you understand, right?" For the past month, Bill had started coming home only once a week on weekends. Lately, even those visits had become sporadic. Communication from Bill decreased day by day, with only brief messages saying he was busy or couldn't leave his mother's bedside. Martha looked at her smartphone while preparing dinner in the kitchen. There was still no reply to the message she had sent last night. Amy, having returned from school, was watching TV on the sofa. "When is Daddy coming home?" At Amy's question, Martha tried to put on a smile. "As soon as Grandma gets better. Daddy is busy taking care of Grandma now." Amy made a dissatisfied face. "But I want to see Daddy. I want to see Grandma too." Martha gently stroked her daughter's hair and said, "I know." She paused thoughtfully. It was painful to see her daughter missing her father. Martha herself had begun to feel anxious about the distance growing between her and her husband. The next day, during her shift at the hospital, Martha confided in her colleague Karen. Karen had been a good friend for 20 years and was always understanding of Martha's situation. "Something seems off." Karen's words surprised Martha. If caregiving was the only reason, why would he keep you and Amy away? And there should be options to hire professional caregivers. Hearing those words, Martha felt the doubt growing in her heart. That night, when Amy asked about her father again, Martha made a decision. "Hey Amy, how about we go visit Daddy and Grandma as a surprise?" Amy's face lit up. "Really? When are we going?" "This weekend." "Don't tell Daddy, it's a surprise." Martha smiled, but her heart was a mix of anxiety and determination. During the days until the weekend, Martha prepared gifts for Bill, a watch he had been wanting, and get-well presents for Carol, a set of her favorite tea and scones. Outwardly, everything was meant to celebrate a family reunion. But deep down, suspicions about Bill were growing. Why was he keeping them away? Why had Bill's attitude changed recently? And most of all, why was Bill trying to separate his wife and daughter from Carol? On Saturday morning, Martha and Amy got into the car and set off on the 3-hour journey to Austin. Amy was singing excitedly in the back seat. Martha watched her daughter's innocent joy in the rearview mirror. The road to Austin stretched like a green carpet across the vast Texas plains. As Martha gripped the steering wheel, she was immersed in memories of the past. She had first met Bill's mother, Carol, a year before they got married. "Daddy always said Grandma's apple pie was the best in the world, didn't he?" Amy's voice echoed from the back seat. Martha smiled. Yes, it really was something special. In fact, Carol Carter had been warm toward Martha from the beginning. During the early years of their marriage, she invited them over for every holiday, and when Amy was born, she stayed for 2 weeks to help out. The news that Carol had suddenly fallen ill had been a shock to Martha too. "Will Grandma get better?" Amy asked anxiously. "I'm sure she will," Martha answered brightly. But in reality, she hadn't been told much about her mother-in-law's symptoms. Bill had only said there was a problem with her heart, without any further explanation. As they entered the outskirts of Austin, the scenery gradually changed. Martha followed the navigation system along winding roads, leading to a lush residential area. Maplewood Street, where Carol's house was located, was a quiet place lined with old maple trees. "We'll be there in about 15 minutes, Martha told Amy, who was absorbed in the scenery outside the window. "Huh?" Martha slowed the car as she looked down the street. It had been over a year since her last visit, but several things were different from her memory. Carol's house had always been in a state of neglect when it came to yard work. The gardening that had been Bill's father's responsibility before his death had been abandoned afterward. But now, the garden she saw was beautifully maintained. The rose bushes were neatly trimmed, the lawn was a vibrant green, and new flowers had been planted along the approach to the front door. "Do you think Daddy is taking care of the garden?" Amy asked. "Maybe," Martha answered. But Bill had never shown interest in gardening. He always said he wasn't good at outdoor work. What also caught her attention was a small red bicycle placed in the corner of the yard. It was about the same size as Amy's, and clearly meant for a child. "Mom, whose bicycle is that?" Amy seemed to have noticed it too. "I don't know. Perhaps it belongs to a neighbor's child." Martha tried to hide her unease. After parking the car a little distance from Carol's house, Martha took a mirror from her handbag and checked her appearance. She had worn a new dress for today. It was blue, Bill's favorite color, with a slightly off-shoulder design. She had even had her hair done at the salon. Everything was to please her husband. "Well, shall we go?" Martha said cheerfully, but anxiety was spreading in her chest. Karen's words crossed her mind. Something seems off. As the two got out of the car and started walking, a middle-aged woman approached from the other side of the road, walking a dog. Martha recognized her face. It was Helen Wilson, Carol's longtime friend. Why, if it isn't Martha? "It's been a while." Helen stopped in the middle of the road, holding her dog's leash short. "Amy has grown so much." "Hello, Helen." Martha returned the greeting. "I'm glad to see you're doing well." "It's wonderful that Bill's mother has recovered," Helen said with a smile. "I met her at the supermarket last week, and she looked very energetic. It's amazing to be so active at her age." Martha was momentarily speechless. Carol was well enough to go shopping at the supermarket. According to Bill, she could barely get out of bed. I heard she was quite ill." "Oh, is that so?" Helen tilted her head. "But last week she was buying a cart full of groceries. And those children were so cute too." "Children?" Martha's voice rose involuntarily. "Yes, the children Bill brought with him, especially the little boy. He's so lively. It was heartwarming to see him cuddling up to his grandmother." Martha was confused and felt dizzy. Bill was here with other children. There weren't supposed to be any children other than Amy. Mommy. Amy looked up at Martha with a puzzled expression. Martha came to her senses and pretended to be calm. "Thank you, Helen. Let's talk again sometime." She quickly took Amy's hand and started walking toward Carol's house. "Mom, is Grandma well?" Amy asked. "It seems so," Martha answered while considering various possibilities in her mind. Had Bill been lying? Why? And who were these children? A few dozen meters from Carol's house, Martha stopped. She took out her smartphone and sent a short message to Karen. "We've arrived. Something strange is going on. I'll contact you later." Karen's reply came immediately. "Let me know what happens no matter what." Martha took a deep breath. "It's going to be okay," she told herself. "There must be some misunderstanding." Amy squeezed her mother's hand tightly. "We'll see Daddy." Her eyes were shining with anticipation. Martha tried to smile, but anxiety was swirling in her chest. The two walked along the small cobblestone path and came within a few steps of Carol's house door. Standing in front of the white door, Martha raised her hand to knock, but then she noticed that the door was slightly ajar. Martha stopped her hand that was about to knock and stared at the half-open door. From inside came the sounds of cheerful conversation, Bill's voice and the voice of an unknown woman. Carol's voice was there too. Her laughter sounded too energetic to be that of a sick person. "It's Daddy." Amy excitedly tried to move forward, but Martha instinctively grabbed her daughter's shoulder. "Wait a moment," Martha whispered. Her intuition was warning her. Something was wrong. Something was off. She felt her pulse quicken. Amy looked up at her mother with a confused expression. "What's wrong?" Martha answered while choosing her words carefully. "Let's first see what's happening inside." Amy obeyed her mother and peeked through the crack in the door. A few seconds later, her expression changed. Bewilderment, confusion, and some indescribable emotion appeared on her young face. Amy slowly turned back and gently tugged at Martha's sleeve. "Mom, take a peek." Her voice was trembling. Martha bent down and peeked through the crack in the door. What she saw confirmed her worst fears. The living room was filled with sunlight. Bill was sitting on the sofa with an unfamiliar young woman nestled beside him. The woman was about 30, with long blonde hair and refined features. She rested her head on Bill's shoulder, and his arm was around her waist. At their feet, a boy about 5 years old was playing with blocks spread out on the floor. Then, mother-in-law Carol appeared from the kitchen. She was carrying a silver tray with glasses of lemonade. Her walking posture was not that of a sick person, but of someone extremely healthy. "Bill, Jessica, here's some lemonade," Carol said. "Noah, I brought cookies for you too." "Yay!" "Thank you, Grandma." The little boy called Noah jumped up with joy. Martha's heart pounded fiercely. This child called Carol Grandma, so Jessica must be this woman's name. And Noah was, "Daddy, play with me more." Noah patted Bill's knee. "You promised." Bill smiled gently. Martha knew that expression well. That smile that had once been directed at her and Amy. "Sure, son," Bill answered while gently stroking Noah's hair. "But first, let's help Mom and Grandma a bit more. Son." That word pierced Martha's ears sharply. Bill had called this child his son. Her knees trembled. Bill stood up and kissed Jessica. It was a relaxed, everyday gesture, a natural intimacy indicating a long relationship between them. "Mom." Amy's voice was trembling. She was trying to say something. Martha instinctively covered her daughter's mouth. She whispered with trembling lips. If her daughter called out to her father, everything would be over. She still needed time to understand and think about this situation. Tears welled up in Amy's eyes. Confusion and betrayal showed on her young face. Martha gently embraced her daughter and led her to a spot a little distance from the house. "Was that Daddy?" Amy asked in a voice that was about to cry. "Who are those people? Why did Daddy call that boy son?" Martha's mind was in turmoil, but she had to maintain her composure for her daughter's sake. "I don't know, Amy, but I'm going to find out." She took out her smartphone from her bag and activated the camera function. Various thoughts were swirling in her mind, but one thing was clear: she needed evidence. Martha took her daughter's hand and said, "Stay quiet for a moment. I'm going to look again." She quietly returned to the door and pointed her smartphone through the gap. She started recording video. Her hand was shaking, but she managed to capture the scene. Inside, the intimate family scene continued, Bill playing with Noah and blocks, Jessica watching with a smile, and Carol sitting with a satisfied expression. They were painting a picture of a perfect family, a picture of a family without Martha and Amy. "Bill, I'm so happy you have your real family now." Carol's voice was clearly recorded. "You should have left that woman earlier. How many years have I been telling you? She's not right for you. Jessica is the woman who deserves you." Martha's chest ached. Had Bill's mother never accepted her? Although she seemed kind on the surface, had she been advising her son to leave her all along? "I know, Mom," Bill's voice continued. "But it's not easy. I'm consulting with a lawyer about how to divorce Martha, but please don't tell her anything yet." "Not until everything is settled," Jessica asked worriedly. "What if she finds out and learns about this?" Bill answered confidently, "Don't worry. Martha doesn't suspect anything. She's a simple and trusting woman. If I just mention Mother's illness, she'll believe anything." Anger welled up in Martha's heart. Simple, trusting. Was he treating her like a fool? The truth about how her husband viewed her was crushing. "So, when are you going to talk about Amy?" Jessica asked. "She's your daughter, right?" Bill shrugged. "Martha will get custody. I have a new family now. Noah is enough for me." Those words delivered the final blow to Martha's heart. Was he going to abandon his own flesh and blood daughter so easily? Martha stopped the video recording with trembling hands. Tears had welled up in her eyes, but they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of anger and determination. Enough evidence had been gathered. There was no need to see more. She returned to Amy. Her daughter was quietly crying in the shadow of the bushes. Martha embraced her tightly. "Let's go," Martha said quietly. "Aren't we going to see Daddy?" Amy asked in confusion. "Not right now, but it's going to be okay. Mom is here for you." The two quietly returned to the car without being noticed by anyone. Martha's mind was beginning to regain its clarity. Once in the car, Amy broke down crying in the back seat. Martha turned around and took her daughter's small hand. "Amy, listen. We are strong. No matter what happens, I will protect you. It's hard right now, but we will definitely overcome this." "But Daddy..." Amy was at a loss for words. Daddy made the wrong choice. "But that's not your fault. Absolutely not your fault." Martha started the car engine. Her heart was filled with the pain of betrayal, but at the same time, a clear path of what to do next was beginning to emerge. She took out her smartphone and called Karen. Karen's worried voice came from the other end of the phone. From inside the car parked at a motel, Martha calmly explained the situation while gazing at the scenery outside. Her voice was surprisingly steady. The trembling had stopped, and her thoughts were clear. It was a strange calmness that comes after shock. "I can't believe it," Karen gasped. "That heartless man." "So, what are you going to do now?" "I don't know," Martha answered honestly. "But I'll choose the best path for Amy and for myself." "Come back right away," Karen said. "Stay at my place. Don't think about this alone." "Thank you. But tonight, I'll stay at this motel. There's something I need to do before I return tomorrow." After ending the call, Martha looked at Amy. Her daughter had fallen asleep, exhausted from crying. Martha quietly got out of the car, checked in at the motel front desk, and then carried the sleeping Amy to the room. Her daughter's body, which once felt large, now seemed small and fragile. Entering the room and laying Amy on the bed, Martha finally confronted her own emotions. She went into the bathroom and stared at her face in the mirror. Her eyes were red and swollen from tears, but there was a light of determination in them. "You are strong," she told herself. "You can overcome this." Taking out her smartphone, she scrolled through her contact list. There was a name, Elizabeth Cohen, a lawyer she had met 2 years ago through a colleague's divorce case at the hospital. Martha took a deep breath and made the call. "Cohen Law Office." A calm female voice responded. "I'd like to speak with Elizabeth Cohen. This is Martha Carter. I need to see you urgently tomorrow." The next morning, on their way back to Houston, Martha and Amy stopped by the Cohen Law Office located downtown. Elizabeth was waiting for them, having opened the office early as promised. She was a composed woman in her mid-50s, with an atmosphere that mixed strictness and kindness. "This is the video I took yesterday." Martha handed over her smartphone. "I also have photos." Elizabeth quietly reviewed the records and listened to Martha's story. Amy was in the small adjacent waiting room, coloring in a book prepared by Elizabeth's assistant. "This is sufficient evidence," Elizabeth finally said. "Martha, let me explain what you should do now." That afternoon, Martha left Amy with her mother, Judith, at a small one-story house in the Houston suburbs Judith greeted Martha with surprise. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" A look of concern appeared on Judith's face. "I'll explain later, Mom." Martha gently stroked Amy's back. "Amy, stay with Grandma for a little while. Mom will be back soon." "Aren't we going to Daddy's?" Amy asked in a small voice. "Not right now, but it's going to be okay. Everything will work out." She kissed her daughter. As Martha left the house, Elizabeth was waiting. "Did you go to the bank?" "Yes. As you advised, I transferred half of the joint account to a separate account," Martha answered. "And I brought all the important documents." "Good. Now, let's call Bill." Martha took out her smartphone with trembling hands and dialed her husband's number. Bill answered on the third ring. "Martha, I'm busy right now. Later." "I have an important work meeting," Martha said calmly. Lying was difficult for her, but it was necessary now. "I'll be on a business trip for 3 days. Amy is at Mom's place." "Oh, I see." Bill sounded relieved. "I'll call you later then." "Sure. Talk to you later." Martha hung up. "Perfect." Elizabeth nodded. "This buys us time. Tomorrow, let's prepare the documents." 2 days later, everything was ready. Martha, along with Elizabeth, headed to Carol's house in the Austin suburbs. The two parked a rental car in front of Carol's house, and Martha took a deep breath. "Are you ready?" Elizabeth asked. "Yes," Martha answered in a strong voice. "It's time to end this." The two walked up to the house door, and Elizabeth knocked. A few seconds later, Bill opened it. Surprise spread across his face. "Martha, why are you here?" He looked around anxiously. "I told you not to come here." "Hello, Bill." Martha's voice was as cold as ice. "We need to talk. Now is not a good time. Mother is sick. Or is it because Jessica and Noah are here?" The blood drained from Bill's face. He was at a loss for words, his mouth opening and closing. "Who?" He tried to pretend he didn't know. "Enough acting," Martha said. "I know everything, Bill. Your lies, your betrayal." At this moment, Carol appeared at the entrance. "What's all this noise?" she started to say, but froze when she saw Martha. What are you doing here?" "Mother-in-law, I'm glad to see you're looking well," Martha said calmly. "No longer bedridden, I see." "Bill, get this woman out of here." Carol raised her voice. "I don't think that's possible." Elizabeth stepped forward. "I'm Elizabeth Cohen, attorney at law, representing Martha Carter." Amidst the confusion, Jessica appeared in the hallway. She was flustered at the sight of Martha and instinctively hid Noah behind her. "Everyone, I have something to say," Martha said as she entered the house. "First, Bill, these are divorce petition papers, and this is an application for sole custody of Amy. Martha, if we talk, you'll understand." Bill hastily said. "Understand what?" Martha looked him straight in the eye. "That you betrayed me, had a relationship with this woman, and even had a child with her? That you lied about your mother's illness and led a double life?" "We have evidence," Elizabeth said calmly. "Everything is recorded." Martha turned back to Bill. "Amy and I don't need someone like you in our lives. Goodbye." Her voice was trembling, but it was full of strength and determination. 3 months had passed. "Mom, look. Isn't my new room lovely?" Amy was happily running around her room in the new apartment. The walls were painted a pale pink, and from the window, a small park was visible. "It really is lovely," Martha answered with a smile. The divorce proceedings had progressed smoothly, with Martha securing half of the joint property with Bill and successfully obtaining custody of Amy. She had also been promoted at the hospital, gradually alleviating her financial concerns. While organizing the moving boxes, Martha's mother, Judith, appeared from the kitchen. "I've made coffee," she told her daughter. "Let's take a little break." Judith had been devotedly supporting Martha after the divorce. Martha's sister, Laura, also visited every weekend, taking Amy to movies and accompanying Martha to help her change her mood. "Karen will be here soon," Martha said as she accepted the coffee. "She's bringing dinner to celebrate the move." Karen and her family were also warmly watching over Martha and Amy's new life. Though not related by blood, they supported the two like a true family. A year later, Martha's apartment was bustling with Amy's 8th birthday party. Judith, Laura, Karen and her family, and Amy's school friends had gathered, and the room was filled with laughter, music, and a warm atmosphere. "Happy birthday, Amy," everyone said in unison, and Amy took a deep breath and blew out all the candles on the cake at once. Amidst the applause, Martha proudly watched her daughter's growth. Outside the window, a car stopped in the apartment parking lot. Bill, who emerged from it, was looking up at the building from a distance. He appeared more tired than a year ago. Bill's affair family had collapsed. Jessica had discovered he was cheating with another woman and had left with Noah. Mother-in-law Carol was alone and had truly fallen ill and been hospitalized. Medical expenses and the burden of his double life had financially cornered Bill. Having made several attempts to contact Martha for reconciliation, only to be firmly rejected, today he had come just to see Amy from afar, driven by a desire to see his daughter. From the apartment window, the smiling figures of Amy and Martha were visible. Amy had adapted to her new environment and had regained her bright smile, surrounded by friends at school. Martha, having been promoted, watched over her daughter with a confident expression. Bill stood still, realizing the magnitude of what he had lost. Amy, having finished opening her presents, ran to Martha. "Mom, thank you. This is the best birthday ever." Martha embraced her daughter and looked around at her mother, sister, friends, the circle of people who supported them. "Amy, remember this," Martha said gently. "Family isn't just about blood ties. Love and sincerity create a true family." Outside the window, Bill's car slowly drove away.